Very much, Cora. Housing is the foundation on which a decent and functioning society is built, and precarious housing leads to precarious lives. For this and the previous Fianna Fáil-supported government's abject failures on housing, the citizens of Ireland, our society, our economy will pay a severe price. I don't want to be flippant or in any way dismissive, given the seriousness of the crisis that we now face, but quite frankly, I have more faith and confidence in Santa Claus than I do in this government to fix the housing crisis. And the housing catastrophe that we're experiencing now is both on Fianna Fáil and on Fine Gael. We've seen 7 years of wasted prosperity, 2 failed plans to build the homes we need, private, public, voluntary and affordable. We've a rental market in chaos, home ownership beyond the grasp of so many people who are educated, skilled and who work hard for a living. Funds competing with first-time buyers and councils, soaking up good homes off the plans. And to our eternal shame, now, this Christmas, 11,000 people, including children, who are paying the ultimate price. They, Minister, are homeless. And Minister, by any objective measurement, your plan is failing. In any job, the basic metric should be this: are things going better than when you first took on the job? No, they manifestly aren't. They are, in fact, getting worse. And Minister, unfortunately you hold some records, and not the kind of records that you are likely to pin to the wall. The highest rents ever recorded, the record for the highest house prices, and the record for the highest numbers of people who are homeless. In life and business, when you're in a job, when your plan isn't working, you either step down or you change your plan. And you have the humility to change the plan. And you're prepared to do neither. And for that, this government will pay a heavy price. And these aren't just political charges that you expect to see in this chamber in the course of our business. These are the harsh, cold facts, the truth. And the truth is the numbers are only going in one direction. And Minister Butler referenced Waterford earlier on, and she did so selectively. In Louth, I'll tell you the reality. House prices have gone up by 7% in the last year. There's planning permission in place for 11,000 new homes. Only 1,282 are under construction or expected to be completed this year. In 2020, at the height of the pandemic, and before your plan, there were 1,076 completions. This was before Housing for All, and yet we still say that Housing for All is a success. Just over 10% of all permissions in place, and a fraction of what is needed to house people is being built this year. 41% fewer permissions granted across Ireland in the third quarter of this year than in the same period of 2021. Not my figures, the figures from the CSO. Rents up 13%. That's if you can find a place at all. 10 to 12 years on the housing list is the reality for the people that I represent. That's the reality of life in Louth. It's the reality of life and the lived experience for far too many across this country in 2022. Yet you still stick to a plan that isn't working, indifferent to all of the warning signs from opposition and from independent experts. Now, Housing for All has many of the fundamental design flaws of Fine Gael's Rebuilding Ireland, a plan that you, in terms of confidence supply, supported. A massive over-reliance on private developers to solve a problem that only the state has the scale, the authority, the mandate, the capacity and the resources to ultimately crack. Now, even as developers make it clear, especially apartment developers, that they don't have the finance, that they're getting out of the game, you still stick to your Housing for All plans, to your Housing for All metrics, and you fail to change tack fundamentally to ramp up what we need to do, and that's to build social and affordable homes on publicly owned land by local authorities. And when supply in the private market slows, you're looking for scapegoats. That's what's happening. Residents' associations using their constitutional right to take a judicial review, for example, a right you now want to deprive certain citizens and bodies of. The rush to reform, and I use that term advisedly, on Bord Pleanála, a body badly in need of reform, but not in the rushed way that you plan. I know you want to limit Part 8 powers for local authority members and local authorities more generally too. Now, this sounds to me like a solution in search of a problem, if I ever saw one. Now, we all saw this coming. We knew that putting most of your eggs in the private sector basket was a Hail Mary strategy. And that's why Labour has said in our costed budget, launched last September, that we should be spending an extra €1.5 billion next year on public housing and really scale up your ambition on cost rental. And the truth is that, Minister, that anything positive and progressive that you might have done on your watch in terms of housing was done because you had to be carried kicking and screaming, led by the opposition to do it. And I'll give you some examples. The winter eviction ban, something that you simply refused to do, dragged kicking and screaming to introduce a winter eviction ban this year. The increase to the income threshold for social housing, restrictions on Airbnbs, the creation of the tenant in situ scheme in the first place, which has worked well where it has worked for HAP tenants who are at risk of homelessness and for landlords who are selling up as well. And in terms as well of increasing stamp duty on funds buying multiple units in housing developments. In all of those circumstances, you and your ministerial colleagues had to be dragged kicking and screaming by the opposition to do the right, practical, pragmatic and constructive thing. And Minister, we in the Labour Party are doing our best to be constructive with you, but you are sometimes making that very, very difficult. It's your policy that we have a problem with. We don't have a problem with you, we have a problem with your policy. And you will survive today's vote. You have the numbers. This is a numbers game. But your plan shouldn't. Your plan should not survive this vote. The very least that you should do is to have the humility to change your plan. It's a plan that's not working, and to listen to the constructive proposals being provided by opposition today. Minister, you must change your plan.
And now, please.